What's going on, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back, Mr. Randall.
Mr. Schiller, how are
doing,
you,
buddy?
Oh, I'm fine.
A little under the weather, eh?
Yeah, a little bit. Get this stupid cold in summer. I don't understand what's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be pigs flying soon.
It's been the same way up here, man. It'll get super warm for a week, then it'll be like super cold for a week, and then it'll warm. Like this week is back to being warm. It's definitely messed with the fishing patterns up here a little bit. So
I bet. Yeah, I mean for Tennessee, like it's been. I mean, I'm not gonna say cold, but it's definitely cooler. You know, it's interesting that I'm not sweating when I go outside. Of course, it's been raining too, like nonstop.
Yeah.
You know, and more to come.
Well, I should be on my way to Green Bay right now. Well, tomorrow morning, but weather's got that all jacked up. So actually, me and Mr. Gibson were supposed to go up there, chase some Walters and some smallmouth, but wind forecast is nasty. Fishing reports suck, and it's just like, we decided to opt out of that one.
Were you guys gonna boat it or kayak it?
Definitely boat. I mean, Green Bay, that's like fishing Lake Michigan, so I remember the one time we took you up there was like 4-footers and you're like, yeah, I'll do this in the kayak for sure.
No, I was kidding.
Yeah, right.
No, that'd be scary, dude. That was like crazy. Like I remember that, like when I was sitting there, I got like 3 feet of air just sitting down. I was like, okay, this sucks. That drop was so bad. I was like, all right. Sitting on that floor is great though, I'll tell you.
What's up, Mike? Michael Riddenauer in the chat. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. It's no fun. And me and Matt had that discussion today or this morning, and it was like, I'm like, dude, if the forecast was like 3 foot or less, I'd be all about it. But it's like 2 to 4s, and that could always get bigger. Winds are 20 mile an hour out of the east, and everybody knows the saying east is the least. So it's just like, no thanks. I'll pass. So we're gonna reschedule that one.
I don't see any fun trying to watch these waves and figure out how can I stay on the top of them.
Yeah, right.
Rev up, rev down, rev up, rev down. It's like I don't think that's any fun.
Well, especially like smallmouth fishing, you can go hide in some bays or river mouth or something like that. But it's like the whole point of going up there is we wanted to get a stack of Walters for the freezer. I mean, nobody can deny fresh walleye is delicious, but what are you gonna do, man? We'll get up there. Shout out to Blue Streak spinner blades. They sent me some blades and wanted to give them a shout out, little promo to them. Did I say Silver Streak? Yeah, Silver Streak. Yeah. They do custom painted walleye blades, man. Super nice. I got that package today, so we'll be putting them to the test.
That's the place to go, as I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's debatable, right? Some guys will say Erie, some guys will say Green Bay. Both hold big Walters,
Yeah, I think it's for especially. I think knowledge is the biggest thing, with you and with Purrs in there. I was like, all right. I was like, being the newbie, I'm like, all right, these guys are on them. And obviously the stack. I mean, we had pounds of fish we took home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll run around the back of that boat like a spider monkey, Dean Bowling in the house. Yo, what's up, brother? I saw your name on the list. Looking forward to seeing you at ICAST as well, man. Got some interesting stuff to show you, buddy. Shout out to you and the whole Westbrook Supply Co. crew. Looking forward to seeing you guys down there. So good stuff, man. Well, let's get him in here. The man of the hour, Mr. Matt Gibson.
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, buddy?
We gotta get an applause track.
Yeah. Gibson might be a mix of
might,
applause and booze.
There might be more booze than claps in that one.
Yeah.
I know my audience.
Oh, it's funny. It's too funny, man.
Yeah.
Too funny. Well, welcome back to the show, man. I know tonight we're going to talk about like product development and what it goes into developing a product, having an idea, and then seeing it come to fruition. I know I recently worked with you on a project. We can't spill too much of the juice of what it is, but I know you've got a background in doing some stuff. I know you gave a little insight when New Canoe came out with the Unlimited, things like that, man. So I guess let's start out, man, just like how you got involved in doing some of that stuff, like product development type things, and why you got involved in it.
Yeah, so like with New Canoe, I've been on their team so long that, back then we didn't have a very big team. So a lot of the product development stuff and a lot of the ideas came from team members. They still do. But back then, New Canoe really, really relied on those guys. So that's kind of how we got involved there. They, with New Canoe and Unlimited, they really had most of the kayak figured out. It was just kind of some of the finishing touches on it that they asked a few of us that had been around for a while, kind of opinions on some things, and so yeah, that's how we got started there. But kind of design wise, I mean, I didn't go to school for engineering or anything like that, but my 9 to 5 is with a HVAC manufacturer, and within that, I've designed some things, have a few patents that I'm lucky enough to hold there. So, most of the things I think of are like just basic things that everybody needs, or ways to make my job easier. To be honest, like that's really what I try to focus on.
I didn't know you had some patents on some ideas. That's kind of cool, man.
Yeah. Some lab stuff that I helped design, and a few methods of testing some stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
That goes back, gosh, now probably 12 years ago or so. But now I've kind of jumped the other way, and I'm in marketing. So now it's, engineers just kind of roll their eyes when I come up with an idea. So I don't blame them. I wouldn't listen to a marketing guy either.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I'm, it's somebody says you all would have Gibson on as I'm organizing some crankbaits and gluing the tip back onto my tube rod. I'm not sure who that is. Facebook user, what up? But that's funny stuff. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like that whole aspect, right? So, I mean, what was the first project you were kind of involved in?
Like on the kayak side, like fishing stuff?
Yeah, but any kind of fishing, like product development type stuff. What was like the first project you kind of dipped your toes into the water, and then to back that up, like what surprised you the most about that process?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, there's a bunch of unreleased stuff that I've actually worked on that just hasn't made it to that water line yet. And that was probably one of my first things. It's a, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but we're not making it. So, it's storage solution for the Frontier 12. I was working with the designer with that a little bit. So, I kind of came up with an idea, worked with James there at New Canoe, kicked around some ideas. They came up with some drawings. But again, this one just hasn't made it to market yet. It's just one of those things that just hasn't made it. A lot of back and forth. And as you know, sometimes you'll design something, and we've lived this the last few months with you and I working on a few things together. There's one of our projects with Dubro that went really, really smooth, and the other one is taking some tweaking. So,
yeah. So. Yeah, well, and that's the interesting part, right? Is the whole testing process, right? And like, let's talk about that for a minute, right? So, well, yeah, before we get into that, right? Like, when you got involved in that first idea, did you just kind of pencil sketch it out and send it to him and say, "Hey, I got this idea," or was it like a conversation, or how did that all start?
I believe it was a conversation. Then we kind of penciled it out. You know how terrible my drawings are. You've seen them. You've witnessed them. So they turned out way better than, once they got into the CAD and got some pictures of it or got some drawings of it, it was much cleaner, much better looking. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, this is me putting my corporate hat on, I think as humans, we're scared of failure. And sometimes you have to test those waters and fail to learn how to make something. I mean, I think like this isn't going to make a lot of sense until we release it at ICAST or show some things at ICAST. But one of those, I think you and I have both learned a lot on. And not that it failed, but the first attempt wasn't the best attempt. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting, right? Like, there's a whole process, right? Like, from the couple of products I've been involved in, I've always typically pencil sketched it out. Like, I know I got a piece of paper here with like some sketches on it. Nobody can see it, so I don't care. But it's like you kind of sketch those out, and I always like to sketch it, sit on it, come back to it the next day, look at what I did, make some revisions, sit on it for a week. And it's the same. I kind of approach like writing like blogs and articles and things like that, like same way, like, you run through it real quick, and then you come back and revisit it, edit it, tweak it until you get it to, what you want, and then, typically from that sketch, you briefly mentioned it would go to, 9 times out of 10, some kind of CAD design or something like that. So you can see it 3D modeled up, have that, part or object or boat or fishing rod, reel, whatever it may be, up on the screen, and you can kind of rotate it, see it from all different angles, and then you kind of sit on that again for a couple of days, and you go back and forth, and make edits to that. Sometimes they're the right edits, sometimes they're the wrong edits, but typically, like the projects that I've been involved in, usually we 3D print now. You'll 3D print some stuff, kind of get it. If you can put it to use in that 3D printed format, great. But like, even if it's a metal part, right, it's cheaper to 3D print a piece of plastic than it is to CNC a piece of metal, right? So,
absolutely, yeah. And it's funny that the first thing you go to is drawing. The first thing I get to go to is putting my idea in words in a notebook. Even at work, like a lot of my colleagues will use OneNote or use a computer to put notes. I'm still that old school guy that they have to order notebooks for, because like I write notes. I write a ton of notes.
I got some too. I don't have one in front of me, but I got like 3 notebooks in my backpack that I know for sure.
Yeah. I never, like we're going to ICAST together, and I'll bring a notebook or two with me there. So yeah, I just try to get that idea down on paper as soon as I can, and then go back and revisit it, like you said. And yeah, I mean, it's awesome nowadays that you can get a 3D printed model of it and say, you know what, this is what I thought it was going to look like or feel like, and then now this is what it feels like actually holding it in my hand and seeing how it's actually going to operate. and make those slight adjustments if there's any adjustments that need to be made.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny that you write it down in words. I would have never thought to do that. I always just try to draw it up. And I guess in some instances, it might actually be a little bit easier to put it in words first, just because I'm no artist. But I don't know, man. I love having that visual versus the verbiage, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm more of a visual guy.
Yep. I am too. I just can't draw worth a shit. So I can't see what like I'm like, I don't even know what this is anymore. Is this a piece of glue on a paper?
Matt draws a stick figure with like some like scribbles over the center part of its body, and it's like, yeah, that's my new PFD I
designed. Yeah, that's right. It's terrible.
Yeah, I get it, man. Like I'm no artist by no means, but I can usually try to like sketch something out and put it at, like we always call it the bar napkin drawing, you know, like because obviously it looks like some drunk guy scribbled a bunch of crap on a napkin, you know. But it's interesting to hear that concept of writing it down verbally and then trying to transpire that into an object later on down the road. I mean, going back to your notebook comment, it's like I got a big spiral bound like drawing or sketch notebook that I usually carry around, and it actually sits on my desk now. And I, if I come up with an idea or have what I like to call a smart attack now, I'll kind of sketch that out and then kind of revisit it later, like I was saying.
Yeah. And it's interesting, working with certain people and how you have to talk to people to get your design idea through. Like, you and I making talking about dialing in this product or that product. It's like we get pretty specific on how we have to communicate to each other, even though we know each other well and we talk to each other. I feel like when you're designing and you're making those little tweaks, it's almost like a different language you have to kind of commonly come to versus just everyday talk. And sometimes you have to describe some things in some really odd manners to convey what you're thinking.
Make some weird references, right?
Yeah. Or be like, "Damn it, Brian, listen."
Yeah, no. I'm struggling with that right now. With a CAD designer right now. Well, not even a CAD designer. He's more of a machinist than he is a CAD guy,
Yeah.
And it's like he's very intelligent when it comes to machining, but when it comes to actually, putting that into a drawing, like he just doesn't get it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it ends up taking him a little bit longer, and then obviously he wants to charge you more, which is hilarious. But yeah, I laugh at it. But I mean, something I just thought about, it's like a lot of times when you're, doing the product development or you come up with an idea for a product, you're basically coming up with a solution to a problem. Right. And that's the way I always look at it, is you're doing a lot of problem solving when you're doing, anything that has to deal with, developing a product, an idea, software, whatever it may be. Right. It's just, you're inventing a solution for a problem, I think is the best way to put it.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's what every product's based on, is there's a problem that needs to be solved. Like so I've been fishing a few boat tournaments this year with a buddy of mine that I grew up with back home. And he uses a lure knocker, and like in a kayak, we don't really need it because we can go as shallow as we want to. But in a boat, he's got this big, nice fiberglass boat now, so he's worried about scratches and
sure
like that. So like I started looking at these lure knockers, and I'm like, all they are clips with weight on it. And like there was a problem. Somebody made a solution to it, and they sell millions of them a year. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about the amount of money that they saved fishermen, right? Being able to get, some things back.
Yeah. And I was reading on the back of the package that I just ordered because I lost 2 of them somehow, 2 lure knockers, which will happen.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll get to Chris's question.
Yeah, but like lure knockers, I look on the back of I order some more. I look on the back of the package, and it says Woo Dave's. Well, Woo Dave's hadn't been relative in the fishing industry since he won the Bassmaster Classic up in Chicago in, what was it, 2000? 2002, something like that. Like,
where the heck did they fish in Chicago? Was it Lake Michigan?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. 2000, that was in my, crazy days.
Attaboy.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
So, and so like that product's been around for 23 years, 24 years, 25 years. So
yeah,
it and that came from a need, and that's where most things come from. So
right on. So Chris, thanks for tuning in tonight, man. He's got a great question. Do some products you think of, are they regional or national ideas? I'll let you take a stab at this first, Matt, and then we'll head over to Jay. And then I got a recent conversation that I had in regards to this specific thing.
Like, so some products just naturally fit into regions. Some regions better than others, even though they're national, like a national idea. Like, for instance, for years and years, and it's still kind of this way up in the Midwest and further north. For some reason, us bigger guys tend to like bigger kayaks. So we'll have, for instance, like New Canoe sales. Unlimiteds will be really, really good in the Northeast or in the Midwest. So it wasn't like, for that example, Unlimited wasn't necessarily designed just for the Midwest or the northern regions, but it just seems to shine a little bit more up here, and that's what customers tend to look for. So I think there are products that just kind of naturally fall into those regional type of situations versus a national idea. Now that Unlimited's been great for all over the nation, but like I said, that's up here it seems like bigger kayaks. That's what we want. I don't know if that's because we have bigger water up here, or we're just bigger corn-fed guys. I don't know, but that seems to be the trend. So
I hear you. Thoughts, Mr. Randall?
I would assume to some degree that's true, where you're creating a product in a certain region to fit a certain need. Commonly, like Drew's like a good example of that, with all the river yaks. All the designs he's gone through with the different boats and just how they handle, and that makes sense. But I also think too that we've used the Liska in a river fashion, and that's not, you can do it, on a lazy river, but if you got some flowing water and stuff, I don't know. I've done class 3s in it, fully loaded. So, it can do it, but you also don't have to be dumb. You got to be careful. Right. But point being is, I think with the idea of it and the inception, and the creation, sure. But I think the application really comes down to the user and how much money you got in your pocket, and what you can access. I think it's hard to control unless you're very specific and you got some, I'm not going to say deep pockets, but we know they're not cheap, right? If you've got the scratch to spend, on, something that's very specific for something you want to do, great. But there's also people that just don't have it, and they're just using everyday boats, that are just kind of like across the board type, products.
Yeah, I get that for sure. No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think from a manufacturer standpoint, you want it to be as national as possible, right? Like the more people that can use that product, the better off you're going to be in sales, right? Otherwise, you got to go that route that you're talking about where, you got to have deep pockets because, hey, we've got a ton of money invested in this. We need to get our money back plus make a profit, right? So when you look at it from the business aspect, you always want to look at something from like a national idea. But the recent conversation I had was actually about Tightline Anchor. And it was funny. Somebody in the Southeast, I was talking with Jimmy Skinner and we were talking about, he was like, man, nobody in the Southeast wants an anchor. And I'm like, I get it. Like you guys do some different fishing, different bodies of water. But I know one of their biggest markets is that East Coast, and it's a lot of saltwater fishermen are using them usually to fight tides and things like that. And not only that, but their anchor is made of stainless steel, which makes it, a lot of money. But it's one of the best anchors on the market, so you can't go wrong for a small watercraft, right? So it's kind of interesting that it's kind of a regional thing, right? And I know when those guys designed that thing, they were thinking globally, which I mean they have dealers over in Europe and things like that. I think even down under too in Australia, which again, all saltwater territories, but it's kind of interesting when you're developing a product. I think 9 times out of 10, you're thinking nationally or globally, right? And you want to sell 8 billion units and, live in a mansion on the beach and drive a Hummer or Rolls Royce or whatever it is that you desire, right? But, sometimes I think your market just kind of finds yourself and you kind of work your way into a niche. And I think too, it all falls on how you promote that product too, right?
Sure. But I also think too, though, like, I mean, especially when, as far as shops go, they're really the dictating force behind that because they're ordering the boats. Kind of like a good example would be like, even though Jackson doesn't make it anymore, like the Kraken.
Sure.
That is a great offshore boat. It can, go beyond the breakers. It's made for that. But it's also like 14 feet long. It's a thin boat, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it's rare that you're going to see one of those boats like in the middle of the United States, I think.
Sure.
Because they're just, now if.
Unless you're on the Great Lakes, right?
Yeah, or Great Lakes or like, a big reservoir, maybe, right? But otherwise, because we all know that would be a fast boat. That would be, that thing would pretty much power. I bet you could do 5 miles an hour in that thing, just paddling at a like little bit above your normal cadence.
Yeah.
Just because of the way they're designed. But I mean, I like I said, I think that's a big factor in it too. I mean, and like I know some companies would limit or basically like regionally exclude certain areas where they even plan to ship those boats, which would affect their numbers in creation of how many units they're going to make a year.
Sure.
I mean, I know there's some degree of that going on, like no matter what it is, because they know their markets, as you said.
Yeah.
So you're like, why would you send a certain kind of boat to the Midwest when it's just not going to sell, or even maybe like you have experience in that, like when you're ordering the boats. I'm sure the salesman on the other end, even though he wants to sell you a boat like a good salesman, if he knows you're kind of making like a interesting decision, he might try to sway you and be like, maybe you should go this way because we know that, it's like all my analytics and all that. And, he's going over spreadsheets, and saying, I don't think this boat's going to do good that you want. How about this one?
Sure. Yeah, no, I've seen that firsthand, right? And I know Matt has too. It's kind of funny, like the new canoe guys, we always talk about it and we joke like, we don't understand why so many people down in the Southeast love an F10, but they hate an Unlimited or a Flint or something like that. And then vice versa, right? All the guys up in the north, like we talked about earlier, like a Pursuit, right? One of the best boats out there. tournament wise. We just had a interesting conversation with Guillermo Gonzalez last night, and he was talking about how much he loves the Pursuit when he can run a motor, right? And it's he's like, it's one of the best performing boats. It's super fast, this and that. But in the Midwest, we don't have a ton of Pursuit sales. But in other regions, you definitely see a lot more of that versus, this or that. And I'm just using New Canoe as an example. You know what I mean? It's just interesting.
Well, and think of this too, right? I mean, I think some people kind of figure out what they're getting into in terms of stability.
Sure.
I am not a fan of anything under 34. I'm just not. 33 is pushing it. Like, what was a good example? I really know more about Jackson's because I was on the team, but like the Kilroy, that was a 33, and that's a different boat, not to sit on top, but man, that was it. But you could roll that thing, so I always knew that, and I kind of didn't like that, but I also knew that the Kilroy was a faster boat to paddle, and it was great for rivers. It was kind of like the good all around boat, as long as it's not pouring rain. But nowadays, like, I'll do a 34 and up any day, because I mean, you see me when I had the F12, I was kicking back, man. I was sideways on the boat, just totally like legs are crossed. I'm like leaning backwards because I know the boat's not gonna tip. I'm not gonna flip it, So I think that's it too. And again, to Matt's point, the bigger guys, because I mean, the little dudes, they can be on anything. It doesn't matter. And I know some thinner guys that like love the big rig, so you have that dynamic as well. But I do think, like, probably we got like some of the heavier stuff people, you're gonna have like some bigger boats. Plus, if you're carrying all that gear and stuff, and people want to bring dogs or even their kid, the hunters, like, everybody's thinking ahead. So I think that we didn't talk about that either. I mean, that's probably deciding, especially nowadays, because I got the unlimited, right? And I had the F12. Love the F12. It's just that my motor wouldn't work with it. So got the unlimited. And I mean, I just took it on a river drift, this past weekend, but it's also set up for a motor. So, I mean, it's, I think that's a great boat for, any situation. Now, am I going to take it down fast moving water? Probably not. I don't know how it'll handle, but, we'll see. But I think it's just like anything else. It's like what you can afford or what you have, in your arsenal. So,
yeah, and I don't think, as far as like kayaks, I don't think I don't think it applies, but I think of like fishing tackle, fishing brands, tackle brands, things like that. Back 20, 30 years ago, you would have a regional brand. Like, I always thought of Shimano as kind of a regional brand. It was kind of for the northern guys. And you wouldn't hear guys down in Texas or anywhere else really talk about it much, because that just wasn't what they were used to. But now that some of these companies are merging and getting the size that they are, don't really have those regional brands anymore like you used to of really anything anymore. Like before Tackle Warehouse, it was hard to track down some of this stuff, so you'd have to go to your local tackle shop and be at their mercy, whatever they ordered.
So are you saying they never had Shimano's down south?
It wasn't as big, no.
Really? Because I always thought that you could find those things anywhere. Because I mean, they're like Shakespeare. It's like I don't want to say they're like, but I think in my eyes is easy to find. I don't know.
Well, I think like St. Croix used to be the same way. Like, like they're based up in northern Wisconsin, and that was like a Midwest thing for a long time. And then word slowly spread, and, look at how big St. Croix is now. It's known worldwide,
Yeah. I mean, I remember going, so we used to spend a lot of time in Arkansas. I had a lot of family down there, so we go down there and visit them. And I remember we used to make a big trip to Walmart. We used to think that was a big deal because that was a regional. That was a regional deal. We didn't have them in Indiana.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when Walmart used to have like some of the best tackle selection, before Bass Pro and Cabela's started like blowing up, or some of your smaller sporting goods carrying some of that stuff, like Walmart.
Academy Sports is a great example of that too. That used to be a southern brand.
Yeah.
And there's one being built like 10 miles from my house, 5 miles from my house.
Yep. Yeah, I remember like when we started the podcast, and actually it'll be 5 years and 3 days since the first episode launched. How about that? For Paddle and Fin. But I remember when the podcast started and we were talking to somebody and they were talking about this Academy Sports, and I was like, what the hell is Academy Sports?
Yeah, they're out here too.
I'm from the Midwest. Like, I had no clue until I started like traveling for fishing tournaments and stuff, and then I'd see them all over the place, once you got down like Kentucky and south, right? And it seems like they're moving further and further north, which is great, right? Like, it's giving everybody some options.
You guys have what, Shields up there?
Well, Shields is starting to expand. Like, they're mostly Minnesota and Wisconsin. And Fleet Farm, right? Fleet Farm is a huge thing in Wisconsin, and they have like enormous like fishing sections, right? And you're starting to see those move further and further south, so it's kind of wild, man. It's cool to see that, and the growth of all these kind of like bigger box store types that offer so much fishing tackle and things like that, man.
And I almost wonder too, like from a business standpoint, shooting from the hip here, of course, I wonder if there are certain tax limitations that prevent them from expanding to certain markets, depending on how big they are.
What I'm saying? I mean, you're going to have all kinds of accounting nightmares once you start crossing state lines. Like I see it working at Dubro, right? Like, we got to pay tax to like 50 states plus countries and things like that, like on a monthly basis. And it's an accounting nightmare. Right. And, and not only that, but right. Like, if I'm Fleet Farm, and I'm using them as an example, or Shields, even, like, Minnesota and Wisconsin are pretty similar as far as like their sales tax code and things like that go, right? But then you come into Illinois and it turns into a complete shit show. Like, I'd want to stay out of Illinois too, right? Like, I get it. I'd jump over Illinois and I'd go over to Indiana and Michigan, right? And just surround that state, just to give Illinois the middle finger, right? Like, that's what I would do as a business person, but to each their own. But it's crazy, man, because it's like ICAST coming up, right? Like, we're talking about that, and Academy Prop 65, something about cancer. I mean, that's California at its finest, right? I know Chris is from out there,
God, yeah. I mean,
that's what he said. I missed his comment before. He says Academy doesn't ship to California. I need my friend in Nevada to order. And it has to do with that Prop 65. If you're carrying products that don't have that Prop 65 thing on there, and like, we have to go and put it on like certain products, like whether they be made of plastic, metal, things like that, you pretty much got to put that on everything. Everything causes cancer nowadays. And if you don't have that, California won't let you deliver any of that good stuff into that state. And if you get busted selling stuff in the state of California without that on there, it's like huge fines.
Yeah.
So
let's over-regulate the fishing market. Why not?
It's even worse on the HVAC side. I mean, we design units for 2 counties in California because they have a certain requirement.
That's crazy.
2 counties.
Yeah.
Like, that's how insane that can be.
Well, yeah, and then on the flip side, right? Because we got on this whole conversation because of like regional versus national.
Yeah.
Now and I forget who it was that brought up. I think it was Jay. Having the Buku Bucks. Now you got to charge 5 times more for those 2 units for those 2 specific counties. Versus whatever. So yeah, ideally that's just a great example of why to design on a national scale versus
or regional. You mean versus regional. National?
No, national. Design it so it can
okay, I got you.
Fit everywhere, so it's going to be more cost prohibitive to your end user.
Yeah, and I don't know anymore. I think with fishing and kayaks specifically, like we designed certain elements for really certain conditions, not necessarily certain regions. If that makes any sense, and I think it's the same way with a lot of stuff that you guys have, Brian, at Dubro. I mean, I'm sure some of your stuff sells a little bit better in the north than what it does the south, and some of the stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Widespread, and some of it's.
Well, that's like perfect example. We have a tool for making bucktails. Bucktail. Yep. We call it the bucktail twister. Well, you're not necessarily fishing muskies down in Florida, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was kind of a tool designed for like the northern part of North America, right? That's where you're typically finding muskies. However, I know guys that have used that tool to make leaders and stuff for going out shark fishing or saltwater fishing, things like that. They'll get stainless steel wire and they'll twist it up with that to make, some kind of leader or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, here in Indiana, we have some serious muskie head guys up north, and then like down south, they can't even spell muskie. Like, so, so like it's even more localized than regionally sometimes. Like it's really the type of fisherman or the type of water or the type of whatever the product is needed in is kind of what you design it to.
Well, it's like right, like I'm just thinking like in relation, California, the whole West Coast, a lot of your big swim baits were designed out that way, right? And nobody ever thought guys in the Midwest or the Northeast would be throwing them. However, that fad is kind of caught on, and now you're seeing people throw them all over the country and catching giants.
People in the Midwest should not throw
them. Well, think about it too. Like, what about the Ned rig? It's used everywhere.
Yeah.
Like different countries. I mean, this thing is global.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's funny. Oh, what's up, Todd? How you doing, buddy? Get signed up for Madison. Yeah, that's this weekend. Wisconsin State Badger Open, I think it's called.
Nice.
Something like that.
So this weekend really means like, tomorrow.
Yeah. What's the entry fee for that? I'm curious. I forget. I think it's like $80.
I think it's more than that.
I tell you what, I'll sign up if I can follow you to your spot, because I know Todd's got them dialed in.
Yeah.
Or just put them on Life 360.
Yeah.
Hey, we're buddies. Let's just, it's a safe thing.
Let me hook up your Find My iPhone to my phone.
Yeah, you're like texting them. Hey, can you turn your GPS on?
They got 106 guys signed up right now. $100 entry fee.
There you go.
Some cash, man. That's some cash.
That's a lot of zeros.
Oh, he said deal. All right.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Get 'em.
So you got a motor too?
Hook? Will you bait my hook for me too? I'm just kidding. Maybe I'll get signed up. Need me some Todd Martin's lunch money in my life.
Oh man.
No.
Is he does he have a motor too?
Todd's a hell of a fisherman, man. I'll give him all the credit in the world, man. He's a hell of a stick for sure.
Is mother shipping allowed in the tournament?
Wait a minute. He said plus a new Hobie for first. Yeah. I'll pass.
Oh wow.
I'll let you keep the Hobie.
You could spin that, dude. Oh, he said the H word. You never see the H word. Ooh, that's like blasphemy, man. You can't be doing that.
I'm kidding.
That's like iPhone Droid. You can't be doing that stuff.
Oh, that's funny stuff. Funny stuff. But anyways, back to the conversation at hand. Yeah, man. Product development. That's what we were talking about initially. But so, going back to what we were talking about, Matt, I'll drill you with this one, right? Like, if somebody out there has an idea, things like that, like, or is interested in getting into product development, R&D, things like that, like any suggestions, tips, things like that on how they should go about doing that?
Yeah, so I can tell you what not to do. Just go out and tell a company their product sucks, and hopefully you can help them. Like that's not going to work. Like have some have a little bit more polish answer than that.
Fluff it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But if you have some constructive criticism for a company, send it to them. They might be interested in working with you. I know there's a few rod companies right now that some buddies of mine are helping design a few rods and things like that. And it's really building that relationship with that company, and you kind of build trust through it. One thing is use their product. I mean, that's always a positive. With kind of what with what I've helped with in the past, I have experience with it. So like, I know how it should function on the water, what I don't like when it doesn't function, or what it should and shouldn't do, and its limitations, and kind of understanding that too. And also be ready to be shot down a lot.
Sure.
That's just part of it. Like, probably like a handful of ideas a year really get worked on with anybody. So just keep that in mind too.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like I've been part of a little R&D and the product development side, and it's always interesting, man. And this is the one thing I can say on the R&D side, right? Like, don't just say the product is awesome.
Yep.
Because you just want to be involved in the next one, right? Like, they're giving you that product to try out and give good, honest feedback, whether it's good or bad. Don't just tell them all the good, because then what's going to happen is they're going to be like, all right, well, Matt Gibson told me this is great. Let's go ahead and move forward with this. And then it hits market, and then they're like, yeah, this, the general public thinks it's just a big ball of crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've seen that happen many times, and it's hurt a lot of companies. And not only that, but the person that was involved in that obviously isn't going to be brought into any other projects, because you get put on that list of those guys, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and kind of like I said earlier too, don't just say it sucks too. Like have some constructive criticism.
Yeah, why it sucks, and what they should do to change. Like, again, that's why I kind of brought that up earlier. Is this stuff is all problem solving. Coming up with solutions instead of just excuses why it doesn't work. Right?
Yeah. And spend time with the product. Like, spend time on and off the water with it. Like, have some thought around how it can be applied, different ways it can be applied, why it should be applied a certain way, and maybe its limitations and why it shouldn't be in certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have I called you in the past 3 months like, hey, did you get on the water yet?
Yeah, I know. And honestly, I don't even bring it up to you unless I've been hours. Like, a 15-minute trip down to a pond isn't going to tell me what I need to know to give you the feedback on. Like, spend some time with it.
Right.
And, when I'm doing a lot of this kind of testing for companies, and I've done it for New Canoe a little bit with some seats and some other things, some fabrics. It's like, use it for hours and concentrate on that portion of it. You know, and think about it in a multi-level too. Don't just think about it like how it's going to react if you throw it on a trailer, or how it's going to react if, you know, if it's raining outside, or how it's going to react if it's 40 below zero outside, or, you know, having that full spectrum and that full feedback circle, and not just sounding, you know, like you said, and say, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, not everybody's got a 70-degree day that's flat calm, right?
Yep, exactly.
And that's just it, especially when you're thinking on that national scale. And that's a thing too, right? Like, you know, we've talked about it on here before, you know, like, I was part of trying out that first edition of that river anchor from Tightline. And it's like, yeah, we saw some flaws with it, like some things that definitely needed to be changed. I just got version 2, the rework of it, and it's like, you know, I haven't put any time on it yet. And I've been real honest with those guys about that, you know. And it's just like, I know some other guys are testing it as well, and it's like we're all giving constructive feedback, and that's the thing too, right? Like, you know, going back, Jay mentioned Drew, right? Like, I know Drew's been messing with that anchor as well, and you know, one of the conversations I had with those guys is I was like, look, the first time I met Drew, I had to look down to him. No offense to Drew Gregory. I love Drew. Drew, you're my man. But he's 5 foot tall and weighs, 90 pounds soaking wet, right? And I'm 10 foot tall and weigh, 260 pounds. Like, there's a difference there when you're talking about hold power and slowing down and things like that. So that's the type of stuff, like you got to communicate, right? Because sometimes those guys aren't thinking about, those aspects, right? And the more constructive feedback you can give like that, the better off the product's going to be, you're going to be, and being involved in those types of things and so on. So,
yeah, it's okay not to love it. Like, there's things that I've helped design, both in personal life and also in my professional life, that I'm like, version 2, I'm like, I hope to God this never makes it to market. Like, this was a terrible idea. But then you can roll in some of those lessons learned into your next one, and you're like, oh well, I remember where it took a turn in this last design, and maybe I need to take a step back and think about how it's going to fit with this, or how it's going to function when you do this. So it's a balancing act, but man, it's a lot of fun. It can be terribly aggravating at times too. And
oh yeah, for sure.
That's going to happen during the process.
Yeah, like on your trip to the lake and lose your seat.
Yeah, that's even wrong, Jack.
We'll talk about that down the road, but
yeah,
it's interesting, right? Like, yeah, it could be super frustrating, but I don't know. It's fun to me, man. It's that game of cat and mouse where you're chasing that problem, and you take a swipe at the ball of yarn, and sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't, but you keep going back for more, right? So
yeah, like you just sent me the stuff coming off the press. What was that, last week? And it's almost like a high. You're like almost giddy about it. Like it almost feels like first love. You're like, oh yeah, and you're excited about it, and like I showed my wife, like she really gives a shit what it does. Like,
mine was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
sorry.
Their eyes like glaze over, just like
that's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
She's like, what the hell does that do? And I was like, really? I'm like, this is like
yeah,
almost as good as the sun being born. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Their eyes glaze over just like ours do when they start talking about like flowers and shit. Like these are just being like, these are perennials. And blah, 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 blah. You're like, they're white.
And
cool.
I'm sure 30 minutes before that package came, she was telling me something, and I was the exact same way.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't fault people for that. But
right.
But it's like really, really exciting to see it and see it in motion. And then, it is a little bit tough to keep it under wraps. Like,
Oh, trust me, dude.
I want to grab every one of them and show you guys everything right now. But
is it in good packaging? Is it like all set up just like it would be in the store?
No, it was
no.
It's
like super raw. And like sandwich
I sent it to him in a bait bag.
There you go. That's hilarious. Yeah. Rubber band around it. Here, this is going to help secure it to keep it closed.
Yeah. And that was actually my wife's first comment. Is this the bag it's going to come in? I'm like,
no.
Yeah, no. Big money Schiller.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that was it. But that's just it, right? Like, I know I sent you photos that morning. And we both talked like little schoolgirls, excited over the first day of school, about it. And that was the thing. Like, I wasn't going to wait to package that up. I wanted to get it out the door and, get it in Matt's hands and a couple other people's hands. And, that way they could see it and feel it and use it and all that good stuff, so that way, like they know what's up, and obviously it's, part of the stuff being released at ICAST, which, is exciting, man. Like, that's the thing. I've been to ICAST for 2 years, but never really been a part of launching something new at ICAST. I mean, few things, transducer retract system, the foot pedal steering, like, which I was totally jazzed about, but I didn't know about that till I got there. You know what I mean? And I think you had a little insight on that stuff going into it. But, now I've been like planning this stuff for literally months, getting ready for it, and it's like you've seen your child born. Now we're getting ready to watch them graduate high school. You know what I mean? So, and release it to the world. So.
Yeah. And you know how, I'm pretty level headed, pretty calm. But like with the Unlimited, for example, like knew about that months in advance.
Yeah.
Seen pictures of it on the water, seen prototypes, saw all that going through. And like, as soon as Blake gave the nod, like, I'm like, I got to go tell Moving Water Outfitters. It was like 15 minutes away from me.
Right.
And I just went over there, and I'm sure I sound like a crackhead over there because like I was just rattling off. Like, I was so excited to go tell them. And it's I'm one of those guys too that like I can't Christmas shop very early because I want to give gifts to people because I'm like, oh, check this out.
Yeah,
that is the worst part of this whole thing for me is waiting to unveil this.
Trust me, I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
I imagine. So.
And that's just it too, right? Like, it's just you wish you could turn around and do it then, but obviously there's many reasons on why you got to wait. But it's interesting.
Well, I think, and I think I can talk about this, but I'll see if Brian hits the dump button here if he's got one. But
getting ready now. I'm worried now.
The cursor is poised.
But like with you guys are doing a little bit different. That you'll have all the product, or if not most of it, ready when you guys release it. So you guys aren't showing. You guys, it's not like you guys are showing up and saying, "Hey, here's a prototype that's going to be available in January of 2024." Like,
right.
That's what's cool about what you guys are doing, unveiling it. And some of the unveilings and some of the product stuff that you get involved with, I mean, you can release it, but then nobody will see it for months upon months. And sometimes it's a year before some of this stuff comes out. So, like,
I mean, I remember I got the phone call to go up when the Unlimited got unveiled to the public. You know what I mean? And I saw that first couple of boats come out of that mold. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh man, like, when I got the call, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll drive up north and do this on a work night. Like, no problem. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to be there for that. That's special, right? But after that was released, now they gotta mold all those boats that got ordered, and you know, and that was right before COVID hit, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was right around there. I remember because I think it was like beginning of March, and then COVID hit a few weeks later, and then everything got backlogged, and they were trying, and not only that, but dealers and consumers were ordering, you know, nationwide, and then you got this huge demand plus a pandemic going on, and trying to keep up with all that. It was tough.
Yeah, we had two of them. And that was in February. We sold it right away. So.
Yeah, because you guys got some of the first ones. I think, you know, when that got unveiled. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it got released in like February or something because it was still cold up there. And then I know I got mine in like April, I want to say, beginning of April. And that's when all that crap was going down. So what are you going to do? But right on, man. Look forward to it. Some of the paddle and fin guys will be at ICAST. We're going to have some exclusive releases here. Plus, some of our guys going to be grabbing folks from on the showroom floor at ICAST, spotlighting some products. So make sure you let us know what you want to see from ICAST 2023. We're all getting jacked up, getting ready to head down there in the next couple of weeks, and look forward to it. I know we're doing some fishing trips. There's always shenanigans, so we'll have plenty of stories for you guys from ICAST. But Matt, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you taking the time. Any final thoughts or closing words?
I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate D-Bro letting me and you collaborate on some stuff. It's been really fun. Hope to do more of it in the future. So looking forward to that.
It's only the start, my friend.
I cannot wait because you guys are, like I said in an email, you guys do not mess around. So looking forward to it, man. But it's been awesome. Everybody stay tuned to ICAST. This is, I think you guys are probably one of the few that aren't leaking stuff. I saw some stuff leaking already for ICAST today. So
I think I've seen a couple reels being teased already, and
I think a few rods.
So
good for you guys for not leaking and keeping the curtain on for now. So pay attention to all the paddle and fin coverage of it, and I don't know, we'll probably hop on there and talk a little bit about it. So
for sure.
Look forward to it.
Right on, brother. Mr. Randall.
What?
What?
It's good seeing you, Matt.
Oh, you too, bud. Sorry your dinner sucked.
Yeah.
That's why Jay's been so bent out of shape this whole show. Yeah. He did go on a tangent there for about 5 minutes, which is a really good one. It was a really good one.
I wouldn't say that.
It was borderline rant.
No, it was a good, thoughtful response. I agree with that 100%.
Yes, it was very.
The rest of the time, Jay's been steaming over his what was it, chicken cheesesteak or something?
Yeah, worst freaking sandwich I've ever had in my life. If I could tell the world, I would. Like the name of this place.
You're on a podcast, bro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But it's
okay.
God, I never knew you could screw up a sandwich like that. But anyway, so bad.
Well, hopefully next week Jay's sandwich is better, and we look forward to chatting with you guys again. Love it. Stay tuned for more. Get ready for ICAST. We appreciate all you guys. Happy birthday, you listeners. It's 5 years paddle and fin, growing strong. Would it be 5 years or 6?
5,
I think, right? Yeah. 2018, 2023.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah. So
happy
birthday, everybody.
Shut up.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Sorry, I suck at math. I almost took my shoes off.
It's 5, dude. This is 5.
Started double guessing my
one hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Happy birthday, everybody. See you.